Load, please. Come on, we can do it.
Oh, live on Facebook.
Oh my God, we're live on Facebook. Hello, people.
Is it working?
Are we gonna
I've still
see
got
that
a big
thing?
old loading bar going
Yeah.
on.
Are we gonna have that thing where we have to like ask the live stream, like, guys, please comment if you can see us, if you can hear us.
Kira can see it now, so she's watching on the computer screen.
Okay, I've got a notification on my phone that we're live. So
amazing.
So I'm going to go ahead and presume that it's working.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's an embarrassing typo in my own pronouns. That's fine.
Oh God.
So hello everyone. I am the LGBT plus Open Officer, and this is our live stream event with some members from Trans Aid Cymru, who are here to tell us a bit more about what they do, and yeah, answer any questions that you've got. Any burning questions, please comment them below this live stream, and we will do our best to answer them. So should we do some introductions?
Let's go for it.
The right. Go on, Shahbaaz.
I'll go. Woo, it's me. Hi, it's me, Shahbaaz, your BME rep on the LGBT Association. My pronouns are he, they. And I'm just really happy to be here. I have a giant steiner of tea. Please DM me if you want to talk about loose leaf tea. I'm always happy to. That's me, Shahbaaz.
Who's next?
Rudy. Let's go.
I'm Rudy. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a master's student at Cardiff Uni and also co-founder of Trans Aid Cymru.
Woo!
I'm Shash, pronouns she, her. I am not doing anything with my life except Trans Aid Cymru right now. Co-founder of Trans Aid Cymru. And yeah, I just generally do activism stuff and help my partner's business. That's about it, really. Yeah.
Do you want to go first? No, you can. Hi, I'm Kaz.
I'm Reg.
We both use he, him pronouns, and we're both local artists.
Oh shit, nice. This is going great. We used our one PG-12 word. That's it. Let's go. Shash and Rudy, do you guys want to tell us just like a little bit about what Trans Aid Cymru is and what you guys do, essentially?
Do you want to go?
Yeah. I've had this spiel for a while now, so. We're a mutual aid organization specifically catered for trans people, and we are essentially trans people helping trans people, and everything we do is for trans people essentially, and it's based on the idea of mutual aid, and we decided we wanted a trans-specific one due to the inherent marginalization the trans community faces, and so we do some typical things like your local COVID mutual aid or whatever's going on, but we also do very specific trans-specific things, and yeah, we help trans people. If as to some of the projects at the top of my head that we currently do is the trans-friendly GP map, which is a map of GPs that are accepting of trans people, have understanding of trans healthcare, and will be able to, refer you to the gender service if need be. And yeah, and then we also are doing workshops over these coming weeks. We have a zine workshop this Saturday. Unfortunately, tickets are sold out. I think we had one space left, so unless that's gone between now and then, and we have a few other events coming up. Some of them of kind of things that are just, essential things like budgeting. We have health and relationships workshop coming up with Recamp Davies. We have Trans Healthcare Q&A coming up with Dr. Kinney, hopefully, and we also have another life drawing session coming up. We already had one earlier this year. I was the life model, and next time we have Miles, who's another member of the Mutual Aid to Life Modeling.
Oh my god, I love that. I need to get on that.
Yeah. So yeah, some of these events aren't quite out yet for tickets, but keep an eye out on the Twitter, Eventbrite, or Facebook. So you can grab those tickets because they are limited. They can't control a Zoom of like 80 people, you know, for example. So limited tickets.
No, that sounds amazing. Actually, I actually want to get into that life drawing thing. Please drop me a link, now, as we all do. Kaz and Red, I didn't know you guys were artists. Hi. For backstory for anyone watching, I just showed up and I was like, hey guys, it's me. Shahbaaz is going to be gate crashing this call. Kaz and Red, speaking of art, like, what kind of art do you guys do? Like, tell us a bit about it.
I don't even know where to start.
It's a little bit Tom of Finland, it's a little bit Walt Disney, it's a little bit all over the place, to be honest.
A little bit camp, a little bit evil, a little bit absurd. Very vintage.
Oh, this sounds absolutely amazing. This is like right up my street. I've just been like running around like following all of these like NSW Tom of Finland style-esque like artists and stuff. So I'm just like, oh my god. Wait, what are your, I'm guessing, let's just drop your Instagram links or like social medias in the chat, I guess, because I actually want to check that out. Opens up Instagram right now on the actual call, just like, oh wow.
I'll try and find a link for it.
Do it. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Or I'm like a granddad.
Oh.
Lucas says in the comments that he loved the life drawing session and can't wait for the next one. So there you go. There's some positive feedback for you.
Nice. It is a hope that we, after the next one, we are hoping to spin it off as its own thing. So it depends. So at the moment we are just doing it part of the workshop series, but we are intending to like have up separate from the workshop series as something the Mutual Aid does, in the hope to like, you know, for life drawing, because there's some interesting life drawing stuff going on now during this pandemic. Thankfully, there's I've seen like, you know, fat positive life drawing sessions. I've seen some sex worker life drawing sessions. So those were better from sex workers from Ireland. And we're doing a trans one, and it's all the idea to like, you know, understand that, because the last thing, like especially trans people, you don't want caricatures, you know, and sometimes the best way to kind of just avoid that is look at trans bodies and see how pretty regular, you know, they're just you know, regular bodies kind of thing. And so we have, you know, hopefully with the series we'll have different people in different stages of a transition if they are comfortable, and stuff like that, essentially. Yeah.
No, that sounds absolutely amazing. It sort of reminds me of initiative. Yeah, it sort of reminds me of like my body positive like experience, and like obviously as a plus size trans person of color, I'm just like, oh my god, yes, embrace your body.
Yeah, talking about trans people of color, I'm going to be hosting a trans person of color workshop at Shahbaaz. I'm expecting you there.
Oh my god, send me the link. I will show up. This is really exciting. For anyone that doesn't know, I am I can't remember the phrase is like the egg that just cracked, like a recently cracked egg. And like for people that don't know, I mean, like, Shash, really, do you guys want to explain what that term means?
Yeah, so it's a term that's originated on the internet for obvious reasons, and it's I think I believe it gained popularity, or at least gained popularity, but could have been coined on Reddit, on the trans subreddit, I believe, and it's the implication that before you come out as trans, that you're an egg, and then so there's even a whole subreddit based on based on the meme, essentially, called Egg IRL, and it's about people who have, you know, scrolling on trans pages, or all their friends are trans, and then they're like, the egg cracks, finding out they're trans also, and they're hence the egg cracking metaphor. Yeah, it's kind of silly. Once it got really popular, it actually became difficult for my lexicon because I tend to call people eggs as just like a I guess it's like a term of endearment, and so now I've ended up with kind of a, oh god, I don't want to make them feel like, because I don't know how people value that word so much. So sometimes I'm like, what if they think that like I'm calling them not out or something really
strange. No, I definitely, because I think I heard about it like just before I was coming to terms with my like gender identity, and I was like, oh that's a term. Oh god, okay, cool. Because I know people have called me eggs in the past, or has been like, oh surprise, you silly egg, or you're a good egg friend, and I'm just like, wait. But yeah, no, it is also a time of endearment as well. And as an egg that has recently cracked and come out of its shell, I actually met you guys, I think at the trans rights protest at the Senate, and also the one outside Cardiff Castle. And yeah, I'd have to say, like, it's been an absolutely amazing roller coaster of a ride. And like, not even because obviously I haven't accessed like the official like Trans Aid Cymru things, but just like being able to find the community, the trans community in and of itself. Because like you said, like Shash, like as an egg, I had a bunch of trans friends, and they sort of like made it a safe space for me to explore my gender identity and like come to terms with it and stuff. And I think it is just really important to have that safe space, which is why I admire so much what Trans Aid Cymru does, because it is a safe space for trans people. And also drop me that link for that trans POC workshop, because I'm definitely up for that.
Yeah,
I put it in the
it's
chat.
essentially because it's essentially because of its so there's only quite a few of us trans POC in Wales, and it's important that we kind of know each other and learn to network, and you know, because that intersection is important. We are like, out of trans people, like if you do, you know, stats by race and stuff, like POC and black trans people face the most some of the most terrible issues, essentially socioeconomic and etc. So yeah, it's important to like build that network mainly and see what if there's issues we face or pressing within our community, what we can do for it.
Especially like as people of color, obviously when I was when I hadn't cracked as an egg, it was like already like as a LGBT person of color, we tend to, I always go on a rant about this at some point whenever I'm on a Zoom call. So hi, this is the designated Shahbaaz rant about being an LGBT person of color. You tend to think about like the countries that you're from. So like my family originates from Kashmir, which is like the area between Pakistan and India. And that culture is obviously heavily like transphobic and homophobic and very conservative as well. And as a person of color, you sort of know it's sort of like a very different vibe, because you're like so certain in just not being accepted. And I think when you find that community, and when I met other LGBT people of color, when I met other trans people of color, it's something that sort of like clicks, and you sort of instantly understand like a way it comes, because it's so hard to put into words like the journey that you go through, even like the journey as you go through as non-POC trans people or members of the LGBT community as a whole. And that's why it's important to have safe spaces, and that's why it's so important that that you guys do what you do.
It's
absolutely.
I think there is that particular intersection has some things of like it's a struggle, because especially the coming out stories you see a lot of the time are from white people, even in mainstream like TV and stuff, and there's very few, if any, POC ones, and they're usually framed in a very positive light, and they can, for example, I don't know if it was similar for you, Shahbaaz, but for me in particular, when growing up, there was this, because my friends were LGBT, but they were white, and they had all okay or great coming out experiences, and that obviously skewed my perception of what I thought would change, but I also had it in the back of my head that, like, you know, what the culture that I grew up, and it was difficult for them to comprehend my my worry, my anxiety about this, because they genuinely didn't believe that like they joke about like you know, the horrendous things you hear from like highly conservative and traditional parents. However, you know, they never expected to happen. And for like, for me in particular, there was a very much disconnect of understanding that anxiety that people who do come from more traditional, more conservative families, that um that coming out isn't easy. Although we have moved forward in society a lot, there is that, especially for POC people in like white LGBT circles, that everything is rosy and wonderful, and you can have a family and have a wonderful gay wedding, or and have all your family members being supportive. It's
definitely a giant disconnect. I completely agree with you. As someone that like was raised Muslim as well, there's that added aspect of religion as well, and also as a child of immigrants, that culture is again just pushed so much further, and it's so much more deeply ingrained in how you're raised, and especially like obviously trigger warnings for like religious trauma and stuff like that, especially when you're raised so ingrained in that religion. You sometimes in your coming out process, like I've heard a lot about people who turn to God and are like, please make me straight, please make me cis. And also in like, especially in like my culture, or like in like Asian culture specifically, there's a huge aspect of shame, especially in the older generation, or the generation that just comes over, or like or just immigrates. And I like didn't know, but like there's so many like older LGBT people who didn't come out. Like they just, it wasn't a thing. You just went, you had a like cis het marriage, you had kids, and that was your life, and you hid a lot, and shame and covering things up was the norm. And that's why I think it's so important that as LGBT and as trans people of color, we speak out about our own experiences, and we talk about that, and we bring light to it, because we do exist. And the erasure that we face on a daily basis is no joke, especially like when you have like things like arranged marriages and forced marriages that can happen, especially when like you're stuck in a place. I'm sorry, I'm getting like mildly emotional. I'm just like, oh God, like, but it's such a pleasure when you meet another LGBT person of color, because there's that extra added layer of, oh no, you get it, like you understand exactly where I'm coming from. Especially when like you get to a certain age and you haven't come out, and people are like, oh, why haven't you come out? Like you're now like financially stable, you have job security, your life is yours, you're living your life. And it's definitely a thing, because not only is there a lot of like conservative values in there, but family is also a huge thing that you're brought up with, especially in like especially like in a POC family. So like family, we're raised thinking like family is the most important thing. So it's an added extra layer of pressure, because obviously found family is a huge trope in the LGBT community. We're all told when we come out and we come to the LGBT community that we are your family. And it's always hard to balance that double life that a lot of us lead sometimes. Like when you do go home and like you have to cut your nails, and you have to invest in makeup wipes, and you have to grow out that slit in your eyebrow, and you have to make sure your hair is always up because long hair is seen as feminine. Like, can't relate. No, I can't relate. But it definitely is a huge juxtaposition that you have to come to terms with in your identity. And that's why I think it's so special when you come across trans POCs and LGBT POCs that embrace the culture that they're from and their identity. So whenever I see like a trans person of color wearing a sari, or wearing a kurta, or wearing something from their home, and embracing their culture and embracing their heritage, and also loving other aspects of themselves, like their gender identity and their sexual orientation, it is amazing. But yeah, that is just Shahbaaz's rant.
I would recommend, if anyone's watching this who is a trans person of color who's LGBT, Lgbtqia Community is a an organization. It's a social media group for LGBT people in Cardiff, and they do weekly Zoom meets at the moment during the pandemic. Do contact their Facebook page. I'm also part of that group, and they are genuine wonderful people. I would recommend it. And yeah, it's it's one of the things that like you it feels one of the things is like the trans community does feel kind of like we all go through that kind of there's a shared trauma essentially of especially within the UK that having to be trans right now is hard. And yeah, it's that's half the reason the mutual aid exists, and the reason we're doing all these workshops and stuff, just so we can have some space to heal and also feel like there is people supporting us in some way that won't let us down. Because we've had that. And the GRA reform in particular was like a flashpoint to that whole thing. It shouldn't have been. It should have been a very simple, just updating the laws so that the process is basically easier, and hopefully acknowledging non-binary people, and hopefully allowing people under 18 if they are, because there's the process is it's cruel at the moment. You have to it's just for one document to change, by the way. It's just for your birth certificate so it can reflect your current gender. You can change your passport and everything else without it. It's purely so I can get married as a woman, I can die as a woman, and have my birth certificate as a woman, because that's essentially why I would want a GRC.
Yeah, it's a basic human dignity that everyone should be allowed. Speaking of the struggles and tribulations that like we face, and also bringing it back to like what you guys do as part of Trans Aid Cymru, what are some of the most common issues that you help like trans people and members of the trans community with in Cardiff? So what kinds of things do you find yourself coming across a lot of the time? I know we've touched on them, but yeah.
I haven't spoken yet, so my voice is all funny.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Housing is the big one. That's my specialty. We've been running for 6 months now, something like that. Maybe closer to a year, I don't know, but we've helped at least one person who got kicked out, and several others who we've helped with like landlords or not having anywhere to live. So I'd say like 4 or 5 people so far. We've helped like avoid homelessness in some way. One of them was like very immediate danger of being on the streets, but there's like hidden homelessness as well that people don't talk about much. But yeah, so housing is a big thing that doesn't. I get frustrated with a lot of like discourse about gay issues, because a lot of it is like stuff like marriage equality and the GRA, and obviously we need the GRA, but there's so much more immediate needs, and that's one of the reasons why we set up. But like, yeah, so housing and food as well. We have some people who rely on us almost completely for food because they have no money. And counselling, like mental health support. It's quite difficult for trans people to access. I mean, it's difficult for everyone to access mental health support right now in the NHS. But for trans people, it's even worse, because if we say that we are mentally ill to our doctor, the doctor will be like, well, it's about your trans, like you're gonna be mentally ill, you're trans, like it comes along with it, that's why you're mentally ill. When like most of us, I mean, yeah, the trauma of being socialized differently to how you feel is traumatic, and obviously all of us do carry some trauma from that, but so much isn't anything to do with being trans, and it's really hard for us to access mental health support. So we have offered like mental health support. We're not like a crisis line or anything, and we can't offer like crisis support, but we do offer like weekly counselling to people who need it. That's one of the big things. What else?
And that's probably why it's so important to have the map of like trans-friendly GPs.
Oh yeah, I think that was one of the first things we did, because me and Shash are lucky enough to be we're on good terms with the people who run the gender service. So we work quite closely with them, and they gave us a list of like the people who they've trained to be like specialists in hormone replacement therapy, and then the rest of it was like word of mouth. I put my ex-doctor on there, who was awful. I was like the first negative review because I'm messy like that. But but yeah, that was one of the first things we did, because I guess that's the other thing we see a lot is people struggling to access hormones or struggling with waiting lists. I've written a lot. Umbrella Cymru must be sick of the sight of me, because the amount of letters I've written to them with people to be like, look, I've been waiting. There's people who've waited like 8 years, and due to some kind of screw up, like on an admin team, they haven't accessed anything. So yeah, that's another one of the things that we deal with a lot is hormones. And sometimes you start with a private clinic and then you can't afford to carry on, so then it's like, am I going to get cut off? So trying to find solutions for those people as well. It's never like there's always someone else that we need to help. Like we don't have 5 minutes, do we, where everything's fine. It's literally always someone else.
Yeah, it seems like you're constantly going all engines going at once.
I think one of the stark differences between our mutual aid and then the mutual aids that you may see around is that we deal with a lot of more pressing issues, to say the least, and it really shows that like how being trans, although it affects your gender identity at bare minimum, it affects a lot of the things and the privilege and the oppression you will face with being trans. It's just an unfortunate fact at this point. Like we are a lot of us are poor, a lot of us are suffering with mental health, and that's because the systems in place are we face systemic discrimination. And we've had people, like during the pandemic, what was the most like in sought for job? Retail. People wanted people to work in essential retail like Asda and stuff. And we had people who had applied for jobs at Tesco or Asda and been declined because they are trans, essentially. Because not because they would say it, but what else other reason can you not think, even if it wasn't the reason? But it makes so little sense during a pandemic to not hire someone who's perfectly okay with working the hours you've been given, all the 0-hour contracts and whatnot, but they were declined. It's you feel persecuted, and it's sometimes you can never get a clear word of it is transphobia, because then you could do something about it, But that's the thing, that every time we face things like this, it's never they are explicitly saying we don't hire trans people. It's internal biases and behavior which they decide we don't want you, or like we've had people who've lost, like they've tried to rent a house on a showing or something, and we know it's like we had a friend who was going to rent a place. They went for a showing. They offered like more than the price they were asking, but they went with a bunch of cis people who were paying less. Like they were willing to throw that extra money away just to avoid giving the place to a trans person. And that's the kind of horrifying things that we go through, and that's why like we exist. And it's honestly it was a shock to our system when we decided to start up, and how much we became in demand, essentially. And it's become essential. Like if we did go under, or you know, we don't have their spoons or something. There are people who need help that aren't getting help, essentially, and it's one of those hard things to deal with as trans people, because we are just, you know, we are trans people ourselves, so we do face some of these things. Although we have the spoons to help people, it we don't have the answers to all of these things, and it is very much kind of, at the moment, a very stopgap. And that's why we want, like, trans people and good allies, that is, to provide skills, and financial contribution is always great, but like a lot of the times it's like, you know, volunteer and help, work with other groups, because like we have a gardening group that wants to get going, you know, that they want to, you know, grow their own produce. And so one of the things that you need to do it is, for that kind of thing to work, is one person will grow a specific produce so they can grow it well, another will grow a different produce so they can grow it, and you need people for that. But what that allows you to do is have a good amount of fruit, veg, and
things that people need to be able to function, especially when it's hard to get things.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds amazing. I'm sorry, Jordan, you had your hand up as soon as produce was mentioned.
I had my hand up because I love gardening, and how do I get involved? Sounds great.
We're in the process of putting it on the website now, so we're having you can also email us or DM us, and we'll tell you how to get in contact with the lead of the group, and they will be able to take you on from there.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And speaking of, like, obviously it is hard and you guys are always going full engines running, which is why we rely a lot on allies and cishet people that like identify with our cause and want to help out and stuff. So I pose a question to you, my lovely panel of people. What is a piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to be an ally? And what are some common mistakes that allies make that, you know, you can give advice on?
I often give this piece of advice, and I'd like to tweak it because, it can be done badly and it can be done well. One of the things I say is one of the best things you can do if you are looking to learn more about a community that you are not in is to follow people in that community, follow the thinkers of that community, and just follow like people who are activists in that community. But I want to tweak that advice by saying that when they inevitably do make a tweet or a status about the group you're in, so if I, as a trans person, sitting on Twitter saying cis people XYZ, you have to sit with that and don't reply to it being like, well, I don't, or whatever. And it's difficult, and it's a skill you have to learn, because you want to think of yourself as a good person and an ally, but you do have to just learn to take it on the chin when people like, discuss you as a group.
When you're a cis ally, you always have to accept that if you're not part of a group, you will always have in some part of you a bit of unconscious bias. And also you will have some part of you that won't understand, which is why we've talked about how when you meet other members of like the trans community or the PSC community or the LGBT community, we instantly click like that because we understand. And it does feel bad. Like sometimes I feel bad because like I have a lot of cis friends or cishet friends who are just like, I'll be talking to them and I'll just be like, you don't understand where I'm coming from. But I love them because they make that effort and they know, like, whenever I say like cis people will do this, or like the white privilege that I see here, they'll be like, yeah, no, you're right. Like, yeah, like I think I said something to like one of my like white cis male friends, and he's like, yeah, we do kind of suck, don't we? And I'm just like, thank you. This is the allyship I need.
Sometimes you just got to say that sucks, you know, not try and. And the other thing that sometimes they do, which I know they do it out of love and out of wanting to help, is give advice, like, you know, just complain, or reported as a hate crime, and it's just like listen, we don't have the time. We don't have the time to do that. And actually, one of the other things I was going to say earlier before the conversation moved on was that we do have this issue where we have like obvious discrimination, like what Shash was talking about, like not getting hired for jobs. But the other thing that trans people really struggle with is because at the moment the media and the government is so like gossipy about us, and they're saying, oh, well, common sense says this, and all women think that trans women shouldn't be involved, all that stuff. We hear that and we see that, and so a lot of us are scared to access any kind of service because we feel like transphobia is everywhere, even if it isn't. Like there are, like I said, I work a lot with housing charities and the homelessness charities, and I know for a fact that people who work at these shelters they don't care if someone's trans or not. They're trans inclusive. However, if I was a trans woman fleeing abuse right now and I didn't know the people I do, I wouldn't feel safe going to a women's shelter because I don't know. I can't take that risk,
Definitely.
So it's really tough because you just don't know. You just don't want to take the risk. And I think this is where it's good to have like LGBT History Month and for organizations to show that they are like pro-trans, not just not transphobic, but pro-trans, because we need to be like reassured. And when I was actually in a hostel, I was homeless about 2 years ago for a while, and I was in a hostel, and when I was there, I worked with my support worker to kind of make it a very obviously pro-trans space. So that sounds quite scary, but it's literally as easy as like having a trans flag sticker on your work laptop.
Definitely.
So when people come in, they know
Yeah.
that they're chill, It
Like,
could be that. It could be that simple.
Yeah, that's why like I especially appreciate when I see someone who's so visibly, like if they have like a Black Lives Matter sticker, or if they have like a rainbow flag, or even if they're dressed in an alt fashion, I'll just be like, yeah, you probably get it. Like you probably are vibing with me.
Yeah.
Which is like a way that I'm just like, yes, I can enter into a safe space with this person, because that is the main. At the end of the day, we want people to have these safe spaces around. Kaz and Red, I'm just going to focus on you guys for a little bit. Just because I feel bad because I've just been like, this is the Shahbaaz show. No, it's not. As artists, you guys have a unique position because, as I said before, it's really hard to put our experiences into words for people to understand. And art is there to fill in the gaps. Like art is a way to explain like how people feel and internalized feelings without so much like putting it into words. And as artists, you are able to reach a lot of people. So what is one thing that you would want your art to make every cis-het person or ally looking at like the trans community understand about the community? So what would you want your art to say, and what would you want them to understand?
I think it's probably important to know that there's no one thing that you could know or understand about trans people. I think with trans people, there's so much diversity, not just, of course, in the ways that people usually think of, but the diversity in thoughts and feelings about gender as a concept, how it should be expressed, what kind of spaces it exists in. There are so many kind of differing opinions across. I mean, I don't think most of the trans people that I've met have agreed on what they think gender is and what gender is to them personally. So I guess it's about taking the concept of a trans kind of agenda, or really any kind of agreement between trans people on the whole as to what gender is to them, completely out of your mind, because it's it definitely won't help you to understand trans people any better.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think me and Kaz are both trans artists, but I think we don't really make a lot of work about being trans, but it is like inherently trans art because it was made by us. But I guess something that I'd like to add is that, I would like people to know that I guess trans people don't just be sitting around thinking about their gender all day long. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I've had a lot of people confused by my work because they're like, why aren't you making work about being transgender, and I'm like, well, that's not what I'm here to do. You know what I mean? Like, I am trans, but like I'm an artist first. You know what I mean?
I'm just here to be trans.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it all the time, you know.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to like sit down and just be like, hi, this is me as a person. I like anime. Let's just watch some anime. Let's like do this. Like, I'm not just a trans person doing this. Look at this amazing trans person doing this. Like, no, I'm just doing this because I'm an artist. Or I'm just doing this because I'm a math student. Hi, I'm a math student. That's definitely a thing because sometimes okay, listen, okay? Don't get me started on no. But it definitely does feel like, because it is it is an integral part of our identity, but it's not our entire identity. And a lot of times we feel dehumanized or especially caricaturized, and you become this exact person that people want you to be. They're like, oh no, you're trans, oh my god, like you should tell me everything. And as my personal advice to a cis het person or an ally is, don't expect a trans person to always be in the mood to explain every single aspect of being trans to you. We are not here to be your dictionaries, your encyclopedias, your Wikipedias. We're not a reference book. We will help you as much as you can because you are being an ally, but at some point you have to take responsibility for yourself as an ally and as a cishet person that has that privilege to be able to research these things, to look up things, to watch documentaries, to watch, you know, to like absorb information and apply it to yourself and talk the talk and walk the walk. Like, you're an ally, go to this like studies class, like learn about these gender identities, learn about like how sexuality isn't how like gender identity isn't a gradient, it's a spectrum. Like, learn about the different gender identities and apply yourself, you know. Like, if you're an ally, be an ally. And that's why I love like when people are so aggressively allies. They're like, yes, I went to this class and I learned about this and these are my thoughts on it. And I'm just like, yes, and now we can bounce off each other because you now have a basis. And I'm not like building you up from scratch, which is, you know, a place where a lot of people go because we live in a cis het normative society. But
definitely.
That was Shahbaaz's point. But no, I love that.
Someone in the chat has a bit, Michael Jackson, is it okay to have prejudices about math students? And I think a lot of the LGBT community has strong feelings about maths. I personally like maths actually, but my partner and Rudy and a few others I know vehemently hate maths and doesn't believe it exists. This is now a maths. This is now a maths truther.
I got an A star at maths.
Q&A.
I had an A star at maths when I was a wee lad. So that is well, I don't love it. I don't think about it every night, but I could do a sum. I can do a sum or two sometimes.
Rising math student. Speaking of the jokes and the fun and the humor that we have in the LGBT community, just to lighten the mood, because I feel like we've talked about a lot of the like deep stuff. What are some things that we love about our community and we love about being part of the LGBTQI community? Like, what are some things that really perk us up?
I have one that I was dying to talk about earlier, but I didn't want to derail. So like Shash mentioned, we are doing workshops. And I know Shahbaaz already knows this because I think I came on that night. It was like, oh my God. But I ran one last week and I've been going through it. I mean, I think that most of the students here can probably relate, but it's like the end of term. I'm doing my dissertation. I'm in the last month and I'm just like, oh, I never want to read a book again.
Yes.
But I did a reading group for Travis Alabanza's new play, Overflow. And definitely go check it out if you haven't already. It's amazing. And to my surprise, the incomparable Travis Alabanza actually messaged us and was like, "Hey, can I come and sit in and chill out and talk about my play with you guys?" And I was just like, I hope that they never see this because it's embarrassing. But yeah,
Hi, Travis Alabanza. If you're watching,
I lost my mind. I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God. And so those connections with, because I followed them for a long time. They were one of the first trans people I ever sort of followed when I was an egg. And to hear them, and it was just really nice because I'm a nerd about writing, I'm a writer, they're a nerd about writing, and we had a lot of other book nerds in there. And the fun part was that none of the people who booked knew that they were coming.
Travis was gonna come, yeah.
So at the beginning, I was like, "Hello, we have a very special guest." It was beautiful, and I think that was
what
one
was
of the
the name
most
of the play? I don't think you said
Overflow.
Overflow, cool.
But it was one of the most amazing afternoons I've had, like in the trans community. It was so
I think
great.
I remember. I think Elliot went to it, and Elliot came back and was like, "Shahbaaz, you're never gonna guess what?" And I'm like, "What happened there? What happened? I was making a chicken wrap. I missed it. What's going on?" And Elliot was like, "You'll never guess." And I was like,
"It was just, and it's there's like a feeling of found family that you will not experience anywhere else." And also, like, this has been something that I felt since Trans Aid Cymru started, and this is why I feel like I'm lucky to work in it, even though it does stress me out. Is that it's absolutely incredible how giving people are and how like loving people are, because like we started out, we were just a ragtag team of like disabled, poor, like troublemakers. Basically, we were always considered troublemakers, and people donated to us. We started out redistributing money on PayPal right at the beginning of the pandemic and lockdown, and people trusted us with that, and they continue to trust us. You know, they show up. Like, we'll post on our social media saying, you know, we got someone in XYZ place and they don't have any food, and we'll have 2 or 3 people come forward in like an hour and be like, I can deliver food to this person. Like, people really want to help, and they just don't know how to. And I think if you give them like a bullet point list of these are your options on how to help, like, what do you want to do? People are just great. Like, honestly, I needed that faith in humanity, because God knows I'm not getting it anywhere else right now.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's really nice to see people come together and
as a community, definitely
work together. Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Shash, what's one thing that you love about our community?
I love the I guess like diversity in our community. Like, as like Kaz and Red saying, like there's a lot of like people who are not, like, you know, we are trans, but like, and inherently all the stuff we do is trans, but like, you know, like there's so many, like for me there's like a bunch of people who are interested in the same weird tech crap as me, you know, that kind of thing, and like, or like the same kind of like TV shows and media, and I'm like, but I love like yeah, I'm hacking, but it's trans hacking, you know, that kind of thing, and that's a so yeah, that's the kind of thing like I found that I really enjoy, is finding people who just get it in a way that, like, because that's one of the things, like I watch and do a lot of stuff, and it's finding out that like how many people in like my field, for example, of like computing and penetration testing and infosec and all of that jazz, how many people are trans within that community, and like have the history of how trans it is as well. It gives me kind of like a weird gooey feeling of like this space feels somewhat safe, you know, and like it's weird, like melding of people and ideas, and like it's one of those things that I'm lucky to have found as well, like because like it's not always the case, like whatever hobby you were in before you come out will still be accepting for trans people. I know a lot of people,
I know, is a huge thing that people worry about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so a lot of people who have left those hobbies behind because, you know, they struggle. I'm lucky in that regard that my hobby is still kind of explicitly trans in some regards, which is nice. But yeah, I think it is lovely, like finding those things. I also just quickly want to add on about like the trusting about PayPal things. Right now, we don't do it like that. We do it all through open collective, which is transparent, so you can see where the money goes, who's putting them, like if they've disclosed their money on the donation or whatever, you'll see who's putting it and where it's going, and everything is transparent. All our like basically financial records, you can see it under expenses and see what it's going to.
Yeah, we're not as scrappy as we used to be. We're a bit more like
You've gone mainstream, you guys. You sold out.
Well, yeah.
This is the old Trans Aid Cymru. Imagine.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm kidding. Go on, Georgia.
I was going to say, Jenny Wilson asks in the comments, what are the most annoying questions people ask you or things people say to you about being trans?
What was your name before? What was your name before? That's the word. That's one.
Yeah.
And what's the? I did have another one in my head. It's gone. So does someone else want to answer?
I think, like, you know, the obvious ones about like the op and the assumption that every trans person is always going to have surgery at some point, and that, you know, until you get that, you're going to be just a miserable husk of a human being is quite frustrating.
Yeah. Just to like inform people, everyone's gender identity and transition is completely personal to them. Like, there are trans people that would opt in for gender affirmation surgery. There are trans people that don't feel the need to opt in for gender affirmation surgery. Whatever they want, it's none of your business. That is the main point. I think one of the pet peeves I get is when I'm talking about, or like I've heard like a lot of trans friends, or like I've seen trans people, and like when people are like, oh, I would never have guessed you were trans. I never. Oh, you pass so well off as if I'm just like, yes, let me come in with my trans flag eyeshadow to make everyone know. Kick down the door with my Doc Martens and my cuffed up jeans. Do you like my nails? Yes, they're like made especially for clawing at the gender spectrum. No. Like.
Well, I just forgot mine again.
I think I have a specific recent pet peeve, essentially.
Ooh,
I say pet peeve, but it is just genuinely shitty. It's the and this is just I'm about to shit on so-called allies, so unless you do this, you should be fine. It's when they ask what's your assigned gender, or who's someone's assigned gender at birth, or assigned sex at birth. It's like the woke version of like what's in your pants, essentially.
Yeah,
I'm just like no, there is murderous rage in my pants. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it's just like it's just a clear like attempt to try and get that, like, oh yeah, I want to know what's it, and it's like, you don't need to know that unless it's like a specific stats thing or something my doctor needs to know, or if I'm reading a medical paper, that's the terminology I'd use, you know, like because like if I'm reading about like, I don't know, things that specifically affect testes, and usually that's people like assigned male at birth or something, or like that, and that's something that, but like it's never, I do not want to hear it from how like your woke point of the day, because it is genuinely infuriating, because it's just so, and you get it a lot, especially around non-binary people, because they have like this specific like weird concern about like how AMAB non-binary people are like just not like, they don't exist. They are specifically marginalized for some reason, and it's just horrible.
Shabbaaz has ceased to exist at this point.
But like you're seeing it a lot on like the woke liberal circles, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of pathetic. I'm not gonna lie.
I remember
it's like their PC version of so what's in your, what were you originally?
What's going on?
Just like, originally I was full of rage, and I continue to do so. Oh god, that is such a huge pet peeve. Ooh.
I remembered mine. It's like, it's this thing that sometimes people do where they'll ask, like, so they'll read an article in like the Times about like this new craze of like you know, bringing up babies to be gender neutral, and they're like, "What do you think about this? Don't you think this is going a bit far?"
What is your opinion as the one trans person I know?
Yeah, it's that, or it's, "What do you think about J.K. Rowling? Do you think she's transphobic?" Or the other one that happens quite often. Well, it doesn't happen to me now because the people who follow me know that I will read them for filth if they do. But tagging trans people under a transphobic article or thing and being like, "What do you think?" And it's like, I think I'm about to block you. That's what I think. Like, sometimes we just want to, like, personally for me, I have, like, I would say 60,000 turfs blocked on Twitter. If I see one, I block one on site. I don't engage with any of that nonsense. I have, like, the Times, the Telegraph, like, all the major newspapers blocked. I don't want to see that. I go to Twitter for memes and attractive people.
Hi.
That's it.
As one of
That's
those
all I want.
ones.
I don't want that. And also, like, racial justice is one of the things that I do, like, boost more, but I don't tend to talk about trans stuff.
It definitely is. And I think I sometimes get the option that people think that when trans people are in a room together, all we're talking about is being trans. Hi, I'd like you all to know that whenever I get onto a voice chat dump with the lovely people of the trans community of Cardiff, that is the last thing I'm talking about. I think I went on a 10-minute rant once about ranking the Magnum ice creams, like properly, and like, okay,
the dark chocolate is at the top.
No. Sorry,
What?
why am I not the host? Can I, like, boot Georgia from just saying this?
You cannot boot me. I'm on this show.
I mean, literally earlier on in our Discord server, the world exploded in our Discord server because of the new Rebecca Black Friday remix.
Oh my god, is that?
Yes, she released the new Friday remix.
Hi, this is the real trans issue. If you've just tuned in, the real trans issue is Rebecca Black's new Friday.
It does have at least one non-binary person in it. Dorian Electra is featured in it.
Should I drop the link?
Drop the link. Hi, please watch this. As an ally, we are.
I saw it and I was like, "This is."
As a parting gift, this link.
It has old school, like, rage comic faces in it, like in some of the videos.
It's like a massive nostalgia.
Oh, that's so amazing.
We needed it. Rebecca Black came to save 2020.
Oh my god, she really did.
But, like, yeah, transphobia on Twitter is genuinely horrible. I don't know how cis people don't notice it because, like, literally it's so many and they all follow each other and stuff, and, like, people always go like, why do this? Like, it's because they're on Twitter. No one's reporting them for us or anything, and they're not being deplatformed. Like, on a lot of platforms, transphobia is given a pass, and it is one of the most frustrating things. If you are not calling out transphobia when you see it, I don't want to know you, because, like, it is genuinely toxic to be on, like, cis parts of the internet sometimes. You will just see, like, someone say, like, I don't know, don't they look like a man or something like that, you know, just weirdly, like, undercurrents of transphobia, which is just, like, weird and just unnecessary to say.
Yeah, cis TikTok. Hi, as a Zoomer, I don't know about all the old people.
And yeah, like, one of my pet peeves at the moment is, like, people talking about Harry Potter or, like, in any way, and it's frustrating because, like, it's just straight up, like, I wince every time because I'm like, ew, how could you, like, disclaimer, I wasn't really into a huge Harry Potter nut. I watched the films, I thought they were okay and pretty good. However, ever since, like, J.K. Rowling came out as, like, a giant turf, every single instance of, like, her work just pisses me off, and I do not want to hear it. I do not want to hear how you went to Harry Potter World. I do not want to hear how you went to, like, the fucking hall. Sorry, the hall. the hall in Oxford or whatever.
It's fine. Like, it's been an hour. We're entitled one more swear word. It's good.
The only thing I want to hear about is how Emma Watson and Danielle Radcliffe are allies, and how Rupert Grint just gives ice cream.
He does. I heard about this.
His ice cream van.
He just bought an ice cream van.
I don't care. And specifically Robert Pattinson dressed as like some Slavic hero, and I can't, I absolutely know. Everyone knows the image I'm talking about, and it's beautiful.
I'm losing it in the corner. Oh my god, this has been an amazing hour. Just real quick,
we could keep going.
We can keep going, Kai. We could keep going forever and ever, but I want to eat, and I'm sure you guys want to as well. Slash, my back's hurting. I don't know. It's because I'm sat on my bed. If anyone wants to know, I'm just sat on my bed, and like I have a table in the front. I'm just like, yeah, cool. Like worst case scenario, I'll just lie down. But real quick, does anyone want to? You guys, just plug your social media, plug where people can find you, because I'm gonna follow it at least. So I assume everyone else wants to.
Yeah, good shout.
Okay. Where is my thing? Ooh.
This is everyone
No,
like searching up like,
I'm
what am I called?
I'm sending the Friday link again. No. No.
Yes, that is a social media.
That is the social media link. You can find me at Shahbaaz on Instagram. I mean, I probably won't accept.
I think you could find me as Trans Guy Rudy on the social media of your choice. I think that's my Instagram as well. But yeah, it is. Yeah.
Bring my cat to say goodbye.
Oh.
Cat. Oh, hi, buddy.
I think Shahbaaz is frozen on their joy.
I just disappear.
You just was like.
I was like, you can find me on Instagram. And Jordan was like, no, sorry. You can follow my photography Instagram, I guess, at bazes.pics.
And you could also find us, the organisation, Trans Aid Cymru, on the social media of your choice.
Yeah, or transaid.cymru to our website, which will have the links to everything as well.
Mm-hmm.
And do check out Kaz and Reg's art, because it's
I'm
sick.
going to.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing. Oh my god, I just realized that Reg has a mullet. I love it.
It's really long now. I feel like I've seen it when it's shorter.
Lockdown hair.
Quarantine, and now it's just like it's so.
It's amazing. No, quarantine hair is a mood, as you can tell.
I've shaved my head like 4 times during quarantine.
Yeah, it's either one or two things. It's people who are growing it out, or just going just you know,
Egg.
100 and turn it up to 11 and shave it all off.
Yeah, I was at that point, and then I decided to put a little slit in my eyebrow, and it's great. But yeah, I've been Shahbaaz. You've all been amazing.
You guys, thank you for coming. It's been lovely just to sit and listen to you all talk. Yeah, tune back in next week. We will have a guest from a similar organisation, from an LGBT association in Poland, talking about what it's like there to be LGBT plus, and
I'm so excited.
Help and what we can do, and you know how they found us.
It's gonna be a banger.
Yeah. So with that, I'm gonna end this live stream. Here we go. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.